Am I the a-hole for making my mother-in-law cry? Plus updates. Original post. I, 23 female, have been in a relationship with Andrew, 26 male, for 3 years. We hit it off pretty quickly, and after a year, we moved in together. After a couple months of dating, he introduced me to some of his family members, including his mother, Nora, 60-ish female. She had raised him as a single mother, and she was very close to Andrew. She wasn't very warm towards me, but she wasn't rude either. The longer we were together, the more we would meet her, and she never warmed up to me. After a while, I realized she just didn't like me. And yes, I was disappointed, but I tried not to think about it too much. I had mentioned it to Andrew, and he said that's just how his mom behaved with his past girlfriends and that I shouldn't worry. On July 9th, Andrew and I organized a small get-together with Nora, his aunt Melinda, Chris and Tiff, his cousins, and my mother Cindy. My fiancé and I wanted to announce my pregnancy as I am 4 months pregnant. When we gathered everyone and told them, they were ecstatic and congratulating us, except Nora. When we went to her, she hugged Andrew, congratulated him, and barely acknowledged me. I just walked away because I knew they would start talking and Nora excluded me from the conversation. And I went towards Andrew's cousins, who I'm close to. We talked about the baby's gender. We wanted it to be a surprise, how I would decorate the baby's room. Normal baby chatter. I was with the cousins, but I was still within earshot of Andrew and Nora, and noticed that she was excitedly talking about how she would take such good care of the baby because she has always been a mom at heart. I'm not going to lie. I probably overthink, but the last comment angered me. She kept talking like I wasn't in the picture. By the end of the get-together, I was mad, and waited until she left to go to talk to Andrew. I told him I thought her comments are weird, and that considering she's never liked me, it just feels like she thinks she's going to replace me. Andrew just said that she wants to be a hands-on grandmother as it's her first grandbaby, and that is not that deep. Yesterday, July 15th, Tiff sent me a message asking me if I knew that Nora was telling her church people that she was being blessed and she would welcome a baby in her life because God could see how much love she had to give back, and that she would name it after her grandmother, and just a bunch of nonsense. I told Andrew what I knew, and he finally acknowledged how weird and creepy her lies were, and he called her to set things straight. He told me she started crying, and that I felt bad, but I feel like she's just plain crazy and is trying to guilt trip him. I sent her a message that as long as she can't accept that I am the child's mother and to respect me, she won't be the child's life. Melinda said I went way too far and that I have no business attacking her faith, which I don't believe I ever did. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. You didn't make anyone cry. Your boyfriend told it like it is, and she got upset. That's her problem. Good news? He's on your side and up to dealing with his mother. That's as it should be. Melinda and anyone else can step off. I was so worried he would downplay it again when I told him, but he just couldn't believe it, and immediately confronted his mother about her poor behavior. So I'm glad. Not today, Hall. I'd never leave her alone with your baby because she might take it and disappear. I don't think I'd ever feel comfortable leaving my child with this woman, but I'm very worried that unless we cut contact with her, she could do something very dangerous, like claiming she's supposed to pick up my child from school. In a situation like that, just make sure the school knows she is not authorized to pick up your child. Same for daycare/childcare. I'm trying to figure out when you attacked her faith. Not stay home. Telling her to back off and setting boundaries is not attacking someone's faith. The lady's crazy. The faith bit really confused me. Just because she said those insane lies in church doesn't mean I should respect it. Thanks. Edit. Thank you for all your replies. I read it all and really appreciate you guys taking the time to answer. I talked to Andrew about couples counseling, and he doesn't seem enchanted, but he said if it makes me feel more secure, he'll do it. Nora's been flooding his phone all day saying everything is a misunderstanding, and that I'm twisting everything out of proportion because I'm a crazy hormonal pregnant lady. I will update if anything happens with her. And now for the update. Basically, after a scene on the phone with my fiancé, she spammed his phone with texts saying I'm crazy hormonal pregnant lady, and then she went very quiet. He didn't block her, she just stopped texting. This morning she showed up. Fiancé was at work and she knew that, claiming she deserved an explanation for how she was being treated. That she only had a baby's best interests at heart, and that trying to stop that would be going against my child and being a bad parent. I told her that I was done taking her attitude, and that she isn't the victim, and that she was delusional for thinking she could treat me poorly and still be around my baby. Thank you to the users commenting that. You all really helped me see the situation clearly. Calling her delusional really upset her, and I knew she would just start her victim round, so I showed her out. I had let her as she doesn't have a key and never will. I called my fiancé before she would have a chance to do so and changed the entire narrative to make me the bad guy. I told him he either gets his mother in check or I will be going away until the baby is born because I am not dealing with the stress of having a crazy woman around. He said he understood and he went home early. Fiancé and his cousins are on my side, but of course his aunt and mother-in-law are the same. I blocked them both. Aunt kept sending messages telling me I need to apologize. Like someone recommended, we're going to put them on an info diet. Unless they apologize sincerely and there's a change in their behavior, which I highly doubt, they will not have access to my child and I will only let them know the bare minimum. I'm honestly not delusional enough to believe that this is the last of it, but I feel like I can take a break from them for the next few months. I'll update. Edit. Thank you everyone for the amazing amount of support. It's very heartwarming to read. There is some confusion regarding some stuff, so let me try to clear it up. I'm not married to dear husband. He's my fiancé. We always pushed the dates because of COVID and how hard it was to travel since my family isn't from the US. And surprise, surprise, just no mother-in-law had a problem with all our ideas. The person who let me know what she was saying in church is fiancé's cousin, who is also just no aunt-in-law's daughter. She's on my side because she knows me well, and she immediately realized my mother-in-law's conversation with the church was extremely off. After I kicked mother-in-law out, I talked with the dear husband for a while, explained to him everything in great detail regarding his mother's behavior, and he is very shocked and apologetic to have brushed it off in the past, so that's a huge relief. She asked mother-in-law to apologize, so she went completely silent and hasn't texted again. I'm thinking that the cousin might have talked to her mother, just no aunt-in-law, because she hasn't texted the fiancé either. So maybe hopefully she understands the issue. Well, that's weird. Why does she think she gets to decide what is in the best interest of the baby? Why is she telling people you attacked her faith? This is definitely the type of person you should back away from. None of this makes sense. People don't just wake up one morning and start acting like this. There is probably more to her behavior that your fiancé believed was normal in the past. No clue. Most of our interaction was cold, so the sudden interest in my child really rubs me the wrong way. This is not uncommon with the mother-in-laws we hear about on this sub. They tend to completely ignore things they don't want to acknowledge, such as the existence of their daughter-in-laws. If you look at the sticky comments on your post, you will see a link to the book list for this sub, and there's also a list of common abbreviations used here. Take a look at the books. Some of them will probably help you identify the patterns in mother-in-law's behavior. It can really help the situation if your significant other sees that a neutral expert identifies these behaviors as crossing normal boundaries. She is delusional. She immediately decided that she is raising your baby and you are not in the picture. She told her church family that God is giving her a baby. I assume through immaculate reception. She is demanding you apologize for existing? Yikes. I am so sorry. I would move in with family for the pregnancy or at least a few months. Significant other needs to agree to counseling because he doesn't think a mother that hates all his significant others and states she is going to raise your child, did she even mention him in this, is a problem, and you should just live your entire life fighting off his mom. He needs to understand that a dad and grandmother are optional equipment for little one while their actual mom isn't. If just no mother-in-law or his family sends flying monkeys, you can tell them something like, she told her family in church that God was providing a child for her to raise by herself. She was explicit that I would not be around my own child. I am not going to be close to someone who would prefer I don't exist. I would change your passwords everywhere. Tell the nurses your just no mother-in-law is a danger, and they need to watch out for her, and register as a private patient when you deliver. If you were my relative, I would be digging a moat for you, but check your zoning laws. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my husband's mom nap in my room? My husband's mom moved in with us a week ago. The minute we were informed she was going to move in, temporarily till her house gets renovated, we've emptied a room specifically for her. It has everything. A bed with a frame, curtains, mounted TV, wardrobe, etc. She was thrilled with it and loved it a lot. Then one day I came home and found her in my bedroom sleeping and mine in my husband's bed. I was confused, but she told me she took a nap on the bed and lost track of time. Since then, she started talking about how she loved the nap there and started hinting wanting to take naps in the bedroom from now on. I kept ignoring her comments, Till my husband sat me down and told me that his mom really liked and got used to napping in our bedroom, and we should just let her have her daily afternoon nap in the room. I said absolutely not, and we started debating. I told him his mom is being ridiculous because she has a whole room upstairs where she should nap. He got upset and said that I was making his mom feel uncomfortable and unwelcome with this attitude. I said no and refused to negotiate. He called me selfish and mean for saying no and preventing his mom from feeling comfortable at his house. But I reminded him that I pay full mortgage for the house, while he blows money over gadgets and consoles. He accused me of bringing old disagreements in this current conflict to use against him. I said no again, and that he should stop pushing because I need a room for when I get home feeling exhausted from working on my feet from 6 a.m. He's refusing to speak to me till I agree and let his mom have her nap in there. Am I the a-hole for choosing this hill to die on as he says? Am I being difficult? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Why is she so obsessed with sleeping where you and her son copulate? This is the comment I was looking for. It's disgusting that she wants to lay in the bed where her son does it. Like I would have said that right away when they asked why she couldn't sleep in there. Because that's our space. That's where we do our thing. Crude as she may find it worded that way, it's still the truth. That is what I was coming here to say. Why in the world would she want to sleep in that bed, and why does husband not see how odd that is? Maybe Opie should just get crass with it and ask this exact question. Most valid one. Not stay home. Your problem is not with a mother-in-law. I think you already know that it's with your husband. He needs to support you in your dealings with his family, but instead of doing that, he is making the situation worse. You're already hosting his mother. She's lucky enough to have her own room when most people don't even have spare rooms. If there is a problem with her room, your husband needs to fix it so she is comfortable. But she cannot take over your room. Your room is private and off limits. Sometimes people show us who they are. Your husband is not only behaving destructively by refusing to support you and creating unnecessary drama, he's not speaking to you like he's in high school. He's being very immature. I don't likely recommend counseling because it's expensive and hard to find a good counselor, but he won't listen to you. So I think you need it at this point. Maybe a third party can get through to him. What he is doing is damaging your relationship. What I love most was these statements. Opie's husband, this is my house, what I say goes. Opie, I'm the one who pays the full mortgage while you blow your money. Opie's husband, stop bringing this up. Like he's the one who brought it up by claiming it's his house. Opie, tell your husband and his mother that if they can't respect your boundaries, then they both sleep in the spare room together, or they both can leave and go shack in a hotel until her house is fixed. This is creepy behavior from the mother, and your husband is showing you that he'll have his mother's side over you anytime there is argument. Do you have some sort of fancy bed or just a plain old mattress? If you have one of those memory foam or similar, I kind of understand why she would want to stay in there as her room's mattress is just a plain normal one. Still creepy though. Wonder if she sniffs the sheets to smell her son. Gross. Not stay home at all and do what everyone's saying by asking her why she wants to sleep where you and her son. Emphasize this part. Do it with his wife. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for smiling while my mother-in-law scolded my husband for poking my belly and saying it was like dough? I gave birth to our first child 3 weeks ago and my body hasn't snapped back yet. I definitely feel insecure about it, to the point where I won't even change in front of my husband anymore. Yesterday, I was laying down on him, and my top rode up so you could see my belly slightly. He stroked it and then poked it, and made a comment about how my belly was like dough. I know my reaction was irrational, but I burst into tears. My in-laws were there and my mother-in-law was furious with my husband, and she started scolding him for not being careful with his words. My husband tried to defend himself, but my mother-in-law kept telling him off. I started smiling and my husband got upset with me for being happy he was getting into trouble. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. First of all, your reaction was not irrational at all. What your husband said was mean under any circumstances, but particularly given that you just gave birth. Second of all, you were not smiling because he was getting in trouble. You were smiling because someone was being kind to you and standing up for you. The fact that your husband's takeaway from this situation is being upset that he got in trouble rather than being apologetic for his comment suggests that he is immature and not a very good partner. I'm glad that your mother-in-law had your back. Also, Opie, you gave birth to a human. 3 weeks is nothing. And honestly, if your body's never exactly the same again, that's okay. You did something amazing. Take it easy on yourself. P.S. I've had 3 kids and been married 12 plus years, and my husband has never made a negative comment about my body. Your husband deserved more than a scolding. Exactly. I would have poked him back and said, I just had a baby. What's your excuse? It's nice to hear when mother-in-laws and daughter-in-laws get along very well, especially on this forum since it's quite the opposite. But am I the only one who would feel weirded out doing PDA stuff in front of the parents? It wasn't really PDA. I was trying to have a nap and that's the only way I can fall asleep. Not stay home. Mother-in-law loves you and doesn't like seeing you hurt. Your husband crossed the line even if it was a joke. This isn't a joke. It's, oh, they're upset. So I better label it as a joke so I can tell them to lighten up or stop being hysterical. I feel like it was more intended as a joke, but didn't go as planned. It's more of him just not thinking before he speaks. My dad does this kind of nonsense to my mom. He always tries to play it off as a joke or something he didn't quite think about. But it's pretty obvious after a while that they're not actually jokes. They're intentional slights. Seems like maybe the mother-in-law thinks he might be that kind of person. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife she needs to find another job? Me, 26 male, and my wife, 24 female, have been married for 4 years. During those 4 years, she had the same job which requires her to be away Friday to Sunday. So she leaves early on Friday and returns about 4 to 5 p.m. on Sunday. Occasionally, it would be leaving on Saturday and returning Sunday. She also has to work some of the school/public holidays. I work full-time and get just a bit above minimum wage and tips. So our bills are split 60 her to 40 me. While I find myself struggling with money and having to borrow from the joint bank account, my wife never have this problem. I know she is getting paid more than I do as she works for a high-profile client, but I'm not sure by how much more. She also wouldn't tell me what exactly she is doing. All I know is that it is connected to her degree and it is 100% not erotic work or nothing in that industry. The reason why she won't tell me is because she signed a contract, and it is highly confidential, so she is not allowed to go into details. She does chores around the house but doesn't cook. She admits herself she is a bad cook and hates it. Instead, she would order either those pre-made healthy meals she then heat up for herself or take away. When I'm home and she hasn't ordered, she will order for me too. So most of the day while I'm working, she's either in our house chilling, watching TV, playing video games, reading or exercising, or shopping or in the gym. Over the years, I got annoyed with this and have asked her to find another job so she has something to do while I'm working instead of wasting her day. She told me she is not wasting her day, but relaxing, and her job pays her enough so she can afford a lifestyle she wants. I said it is not fair on me, as I come home tired while she has done nothing all day. To which she said I can find another job or a different job, but I am an a-hole for wanting her to find another job because I feel tired when coming back from work, when she has already got a job she loves. After this, she won't talk to me. I have spoken to my family, and while my parents agree with me that she needs to work, my sisters took my wife's side and called me a massive a-hole. Edit, I'm not saying she needs to quit the job she has. I'm saying she needs to find another job to do during her free time. Could be a part-time one, since she doesn't really do much during the day. Now, for the top comments. You're the a-hole. You have no right to make your wife leave her clearly very good job, just because you feel it's unfair to you. She gets paid well and gets to relax, but you'd rather she suffer working the same way you suffer than you having financial security. If it bothers you this much, how about you start looking for another job that pays more and demands less? Edit. OP, your edit that she needs to find a second job doesn't make this any better. In fact, it makes it worse. You're the a-hole. The only person who needs another job is you, so you can actually pay your half of the bills. So you want her to work 2 jobs and be tired because you work one and you're tired? How is that even remotely fair? You're the a-hole. Opie would have hated me. I saved up a bunch of money and lived off of it because I could. I only did my fair share of the housework because I paid my share of the bills. Why would I do more just because I have more free time? I paid for that time, and Opie is an entitled jerk. YTA. Your reason for wanting her to do is just because you feel jealous and emasculated. I am suffering, therefore she must suffer too, so I don't feel as bad. This is exactly how it reads. Opie is jealous she has days each week to live her life. He wants to force her into long, hard minimum wage labor just like he does. Girl has found peace and balance. Opie should be striving to be like her. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for urging my husband to go to work despite him having an upset stomach? My husband is your typical man flu guy who wants to be babied if he gets a small sniffle. Love him to death, and he is truly a fantastic person all the way around. But it's like a war zone in my house whenever he feels even remotely ill. Like even a small headache, he starts going off. Last night, he ate a bunch of ice cream. He is lactose sensitive, and due to this, he is feeling it today. He has an upset stomach and immediately started whining the second he woke up. His whining is like him groaning really loud, almost like he wants that to be the only thing you can hear. Heavily sighing kind of sounds like a toddler who is mad for not getting their way. So he was doing that and almost immediately following, starts asking me to cater to him. Fetch him ice water, run a cool shower, get him a towel, help him get motivated, etc. I don't have the time, energy, or patience for this today, especially knowing he caused it. We have 3 children who I need to tend to, a farm to run, multiple dogs to feed, and I work from home today and it's already 107 degrees and it's only 8 a.m. I don't have it in me to cater to him on top of it all. So he starts talking about taking the day off from work, and I told him he should go in and feel it out and see how he feels throughout the day. I said this after he told me he felt a bit better after a cold shower. I convinced him that maybe he wasn't drinking enough water. Anyways, by the end of it and lots of convincing later, he leaves for work. For all wondering? Yes, it's just because of the lactose sensitivity. We made sure, as we have rapid tests on hand. So he leaves, but calls me about 20 minutes ago and was like, "You just didn't want to deal with me at the house. That's it, right?" So I was honest and told him I had far too much to do today. So catering to him like he would fully expect had he stayed home would put far too much on my shoulders. And I wasn't willing to run myself on empty today. This is my only somewhat down day in comparison to other days, because I volunteer at the soup kitchen, run a charity program with the church, and I also lend a farmhand to other neighbors. So today was the only day I didn't have to do those extras and could focus on my work, farm, and kids. He says I'm an a-hole because I'm choosing to make him feel terrible and make him go to work, just because I didn't want to deal with it. I reminded him it was his fault he felt like that anyhow, and I'm not his mother. So if he wanted to stay home, he could tend to himself because I wasn't doing it today. He hung up but stayed at work. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. It was entirely self-inflicted, like a hangover after drinking too much. Had he stayed home, I'd have recommended just getting on with your day as normal, as if he wasn't even there. Maybe it would have been good to see what you normally do every day, since it sounds like he may not respect it if he wants to be child number 4 when he's a little ill. This. If you get struck down with an actual illness like the flu, I get asking for help. I've had relatives drop off medicine or whatever. But if you caused your own problem, no one else should be obligated to do anything about it. Honestly, I've never needed my husband to take care of me when I was actually sick, like making good friends with a toilet sick or migraine sick. The most I've asked is for him to take over childcare, and if he wasn't busy, get an ice pack or some medicine. Both things I would do entirely on my own, even when it feels like someone's put an ice pick through my eye and keeps hammering it. Not the a-hole. First off, I hate the man cold trope. I'm not arguing if it exists. Clearly you've shown it does here. It just drives me nuts, because I'm the type who is stubborn and refuses to be taken care of, even when I can barely walk due to being sick. Yet I've still gotten comments about having a man cold and whining unnecessary. Secondly, he brought it entirely on himself. He wants to be treated like an adult? He should act like one. That means making better decisions. If you struggled with lactose, don't eat a ton of ice cream. Problem solved. And having accountability for your own actions. He needs to grow up big time. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting my husband's other child in my house? My husband cheated on me while I was pregnant and had a baby with another woman. I found out after the other child was born. I've never been okay with this. It's exactly the kind of trash I tried so hard to have not be part of my life. If it was possible, I would have divorced him by now. But I'm stuck at a legal dead end and it's not possible. We have a legal and emotional separation agreement though. Since he travels a lot in between the baby, my parents, and my career, I've been able to avoid thinking too much about it. Well, so I thought. It's been almost 2 years since then, and now he wants to bring that child into my house. I guess he has some kind of schedule with the other child's mother that includes visits, and he wants that visitation to be in what is technically still his residence. Absolutely not. I'm not a stepmother to any child. And unlike in most of these situations, the house we're living in is truly only mine. It's under my parents' names, but I got it when I got power of attorney and they had to go into a care home. I'm not having his kid in it. My husband and our family say that I need to deal with it because I am still married, that I need to accept my stepchild, and that I'm a witch for excluding a baby and preventing siblings from having a relationship. I don't agree. This child may technically be siblings to mine, but I don't need to play mom to this kid to make a relationship happen. And I don't want any of this trash coming into mine or my child's safe space. Am I crazy for not wanting this child here? Edit. Why can't you get divorced? Why is he still living there? In my state, to file for divorce, both parties need to have been separated for over a year and living in separate residences, which requires one of us to move out. He doesn't want a divorce, so of course he won't move out. I can't make him because we're still married. In theory, I could move out and start the clock, but realistically, I can't. With a POA, I can't just abandon the house. I couldn't afford to anyway, but if I did, he would be able to remain there. I would eventually get the house back, but in the meantime, he could easily destroy it and then I'd have legal problems from that. To clarify on the separation agreement, those don't technically exist in my state, but since we have it notarized, we could use it as an interim agreement on custody and a split on finances once the clock starts, and especially post-filing. Edit 2. Adultery/at fault. I can file based on adultery. I don't really want to go that route because it would turn the entire situation very hostile very quickly. And I would still have to have him living here until we could get a court date, which could easily be months and months in the future anyway. I realize it already seems as hostile as possible right now, but day-to-day things are civil in a way that it wouldn't be if I did that. I'm also not confident that it wouldn't look bad because I would have waited 2 years after knowing about it to do anything. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. This may not be a popular opinion since most on here say you have to be a perfect step-parent and accept all situations. But you are not at all the a-hole. I was in a similar situation and still angry 30 years later. Don't let people tell you what to do or how you feel. It is your house. Tell the father to go someplace else. Also, typically, the partner is aware of the spouse having a kid prior to moving/getting married. A step-parent that tells their partner they don't want anything to do with the kid in question is different as they knew before, so now they have to live with it as it was always part of the deal. This situation is different. She doesn't even want to be in a relationship with a father. It's exactly like all the other stories that we saw recently where the OP is divorced, and the ex want the OP to take care of the step/half-siblings for a weekend or something. And each time, the OP is not a-hole. The only difference is that she is stuck living with the other parent. And the other parent is using legal loopholes to stay there and stay married, twisting OP's hand as it is. Get a lawyer. A good one. He will bring this other child. You need a lawyer to evict him. A lot of people who share a residence go through divorce. It shouldn't be this hard without another way out. Get a lawyer and file for divorce and evict him. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for teaching my children Spanish without asking my husband to be permission? I've been seeing Mike, 40, for 3 years now and we are planning on getting married soon and have moved in together a few weeks ago. Mike has 2 children with his first wife who apparently left them when the kids were little. His children are Katie, female 12, and Sab, male 11. Katie and Sab's mom was from Nicaragua who moved to the US where she met Mike. I don't know why, but the children were never taught Spanish, only English. I met Mike in the UK where I live, although I am originally from Spain. In school, they learned bits of French, but no Spanish. Here's the thing. Katie came over to me and asked me if I could teach them some Spanish, and I said absolutely. And we asked if Sab wanted to join us and he was up for it. I was excited. It means that the kids could learn their mother's language, possibly try and get in touch with their maternal side of the family when they're older. They don't have contact with them now and Mike said they all live in Nicaragua, and they could potentially form a stronger bond with my parents. Their future step-grandparents as my parents speak poor English. We typically have a clear understanding of who handles what with kids. We've had plenty of discussions of what my role is and what he doesn't want me to do, etc. But frankly, I didn't think something as simple as teaching them language needed a discussion. It was just a fun activity we did. Simple things like pointing at things and telling them words or asking them. Teaching them sentences. We've only been doing it a short while, so it's basic stuff. I thought I'd mentioned it to Mike, but either I forgot or he hadn't listened, but he swears he didn't know. One day he heard me correcting Katie's conjugation and he got really angry. He asked me what I was doing. Before I had a chance of saying anything, very excited Katie chimed in saying that she's learning Spanish and asking if he wants to learn it with her. Mike said no and sent her to her room. He argued with me that I had no right to teach them Spanish and I should have consulted him first. I told him I didn't think it would be much of a problem as the chance of them having it in school was 50-50 anyway, and they asked me to help them. He told me I overstepped the boundaries. He explicitly forbade me from speaking to kids in Spanish. I tried to understand why it was such a problem and ask him, but he told me to stop asking, said the topic was finished and tried to leave. I asked what he was hiding and he called me a witch, an a-hole, and some other names. This was the first time he ever insulted me in any way, shape, or form. He apologized later that day and said he didn't appreciate me teaching them things like that and asked me to please drop the subject. I talked with my friends, and some say I wasn't the a-hole, but some say that I should have asked him first and not teach kids anything without his permission. And I'm confused. Am I the a-hole for teaching them Spanish? Not the a-hole. There are two large problems here that I see and I think you heavily need to consider before marrying this man. 1. He is extremely controlling over things which do not matter and overreacts. If this was an actual thing that really affecting his children, I'd understand, but you are not. Even if he apologized later, his initial response should be a huge, giant, neon red flag. 2. He has forbidden you from speaking Spanish, which is a very blatant attempt to erase your language and culture from the household. You will never be able to be your own person around him, only the person he wants you to be. It's worrying for the kids. It absolutely is. But Opie is not married to him, so the truth of the matter is that they are not her children. There is nothing she can do but get herself out, unfortunately. Not the a-hole. The kids ask you, and there was no reason you would have had any reason to suspect that it would be a problem. It's a totally normal thing to do, and teaching a language is a great way to connect and bond with the kids, especially if they want you to. Based on the info you gave about your fiancé's history, I suspect the Spanish language is a sore spot for him because of his ex. But there's no way you could have known that, and his reaction was awful. Not the a-hole. I agree with your comment, however, he's gonna suck it up because he married a person from Spain. Like, and what if they have kids? She can't teach them Spanish either? I feel like his reaction was very over the top.